An elected school board trustee was just ordered to pay $750,000 for hurting the feelings of transgender people because of his political views, which he honestly holds and for which he was voted into office as a school board trustee. Let me read to you from the Regime Media's report, and then a little bit later we'll talk to a lawyer about it. This is an incredible report in CTV, which I think was written by Canadian Press, so it'll be in every newspaper, and it somehow forgets, whoopsies, to interview anyone on the free speech side of the debate. That's a trick, isn't it? So this is the CTV version. Former Chilliwack school trustee Barry Neufeld has been ordered to pay $750,000 in damages to LGBTQ2S plus teachers after the BC Human Rights Tribunal found dozens of public statements amounted to discrimination or hate speech. So speech, merely speaking, is discrimination now? Especially when your job is specifically to speak honestly and from the heart about matters in the public interest. That's discrimination. Just speaking is discrimination. I thought discrimination was, okay, you're not going to allow someone to rent a hotel room because they're black. You're not going to allow someone in your restaurant because they're indigenous, whatever. You're actually making a choice. You're banning someone. You're firing someone because you find out they're gay. That's discrimination. No, it's discrimination just to have a different point of view now, is it? There's no such thing as the right not to be offended. I'm sorry, that is a fake thing. That is Orwellian. That's a counterfeit human right. That's the government power to silence you. That's not a human right. Let me read a little bit. The decision released Wednesday caps a human rights case nearly a decade in the making and concludes that Neufeld's public attacks on sexual orientation and gender identity education, known as SOGI 123, helped create a poisoned work environment for queer and trans teachers in Chilliwack. Now his job was to oversee sex education. He disagreed with transgenderism being taught in schools, especially to children of tender years. It's not a poison work environment. He's not against trans people or gay people, for all I know. He's against teaching young kids about radical sexual expression. The tribunal determined he breached 3 sections of the Human Rights Code, including employment discrimination, discriminatory publications, and hate speech, and ordered him to compensate dozens of teachers impacted by his conduct. The ruling also underscores that school trustees have a legal duty to uphold safe and inclusive learning environments. Stop the BS, please. No one was unsafe here. No one went to the police because they were unsafe. No one, called 911. There's no policeman in the world that would lay such charges, no prosecutor who would prosecute, no judge who would find against them. So they went to BC's Kangaroo Court, the worst one in the country, the BC Human Rights Tribunal. I remember when I wrote a book called Shakedown about this more than a dozen years ago. This is the same BC Human Rights Tribunal that there was a woman who worked at a McDonald's and refused to wash her hands. And McDonald's said, you can't work at McDonald's if you don't wash your hands. And the tribunal ordered them to hire her anyways. Isn't that super gross? I'll never forget that story because that just shows how gross the BC Human Rights Tribunal is. The real rules of justice do not apply. I'll keep reading. The tribunal awarded $750,000 to the Chilliwack Teachers Association for equal distribution amongst LGBTQ2S plus class members. The panel estimated the class likely includes between 45 and 163 teachers, but the exact number will be confirmed by the CTA during distribution. Hey, if you're gay, you get cash. You don't have to show any damages other than you don't like what he said. That's not damages, like if someone hits your car or assaults you. That's called a difference of opinion. And if you're gay, you get money, thousands of dollars. So, hey, if you've ever had romantic feelings, even just in your own head about someone, now's the time to come out of the closet. It's literally worth thousands of dollars to you to say you're gay. Now, we've had in immigration law, people falsely claiming to be gay so they can falsely claim they were discriminated back home, so they're allowed to come in as refugees. They later then bring their 4 wives and children over. If you think I'm joking, I am not. Being gay pays, and in Chilliwack, it's about to pay out thousands of dollars. Expect the number of gay teachers to, I don't know, double, triple, quadruple. Why would you not say you're gay? And by the way, having a straight spouse is no proof you're not gay. The BC Human Rights Tribunal is murdering BC human rights. Now, I'm not going to read all of it, but here's a gem from the CTV story. The panel issued a cease and refrain order prohibiting Neufeld from repeating similar conduct, as in they're preemptively stopping him from talking about these things even now, even to journalists. Now, I'll jump ahead in the story. It also concluded that 6 of his public posts, referred to jointly as hate speech publications, in the decision violated Section 7.1b of the Code. This provision prohibits the publication of speech that is likely to expose a person or a group of class or persons to hatred or contempt because of their protected characteristics. This is colloquially referred to as hate speech, the decision explains. So this isn't a real court, and it's not a real judge, and it's not real prosecutors, but it just sentenced a man for hate, a feelings crime. The Liberals in Parliament, may I remind you, want to make it a life sentence to be found guilty of hate. Let me read some more. The panel also declined to order mandatory anti-discrimination training, writing that Neufeld's views appear clearly entrenched, making such an order unlikely to be effective. Additionally, since Neufeld is no longer a trustee after losing his bid in the 2022 election, the panel said this training would not lead to a less discriminatory workplace for the complainants. Could you imagine being told you had to undergo re-education on something as nuts as transgenderism? Who would be the teacher in that, RuPaul or something? But why bother? You've just hit the guy with a $750,000 fine. But seriously, why not make it $750 million? Why not make it a $750 billion fine, just to be safe? I'll read some more. Neufeld had argued throughout the hearing that his statements weren't derogatory towards LGBTQS plus people, and that he was simply criticizing government policy, particularly the SOGI 123 curriculum. He maintained that his comments reflected legitimate concerns and evidence-based viewpoints, and not discrimination or hatred. Well, don't you see that is how you win a debate in 2026? The vast majority of real people are against transgender extremism, by which I mean men and women's prisons, men and women's bathrooms, men and women's sports, the sexualization of young kids. And if you think an old man named Neufeld is the problem, may I invite you to talk to any new immigrant from Asia or Africa or the Middle East about this? So yeah, no big deal. No need to convince anyone they're wrong. No need to debate anyone. Just ban them from saying things you don't like, especially those pesky elected politicians. I mean, why don't we just hand over the schools and our children to the BC Human Rights Tribunal? Oh, right, we did. Here, I'll read some more. Kasari Govender, BC's Human Rights Commissioner, and an intervener in the case, welcomed the ruling, particularly the way it underscores that people in power still have human rights obligations while engaging in political debate. Quote, occupying an elected position, such as being a school trustee, can mean that hateful and discriminatory messages are seen as more credible and can spread faster and further, which in turn can mean that the impact of those messages is intensified, Govender told CTV News. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Not a single civil libertarian is quoted. Frankly, I doubt that anyone at the Canadian Civil Liberties Association or the BC Civil Liberties Association would even side with Neufeld. I mean, they long ago stopped being for actual free speech except for their side. So they'd call Drag Queen Story Hour for kindergarten. They would call that free speech. That's what they mean by free speech. Just, you're not allowed to criticize that, even in an elected school board. That makes you a denier of transgenderism. Yeah, that's a pretty serious sign that your civilization is in decline, not just the transgender extremism, but the censorship and lawfare and litigation to maintain the appearance that people support this insanity. It really reminds me of the decadence of Rome. Caligula would find it fascinating. So there's that. And then there's this I saw today. Look at this tweet. Totally switching subjects now, but am I really? I'm talking about civilizations in decline. Here's a tweet from the Globe and Mail. Out of nowhere, I love those 3 words, out of nowhere, Canada became poorer than Alabama. How is that possible? Yeah, out of nowhere, just sort of sneaked up on us. Not sure who might be to blame. Probably nobody. I mean, really, it just happened. Yeah, we're in a bit of a mess.